You could leave life right now. Let that determine what you do, say, and think. A large part of our suffering is entirely self-inflicted. It is the quiet frustration of knowing you are capable of more, while your attention is scattered across 100 different places. Every day offers opportunities to move forward. Yet, many spend their lives watching, reacting, consuming, and waiting. Waiting for confidence. Waiting for motivation. Waiting for certainty. But life keeps moving while you stand still. The Stoics understood a timeless truth: before discipline grows, excuses must be confronted. Before confidence appears, self-respect must be earned. Strength is found less in what you start doing, and more on what you finally choose to stop doing.
Welcome to True Stoic Journal, the path to inner control.
Most people do not lose because they lack intelligence. They lose because they become dependent on being liked. Being liked feels comfortable and safe, but comfort has a price. Most people never realize what they sacrifice just to avoid tension. Every unnecessary apology, every softened opinion, and every moment spent shrinking to protect someone else's perception slowly weakens the mind. The Stoics understood this clearly: a person who cannot tolerate disapproval eventually becomes controlled by it. Once approval begins controlling behavior, freedom disappears quietly, one compromise at a time. Beneath performative politeness is often fear disguised as virtue: fear of rejection, fear of conflict, and fear of standing alone in a world obsessed with validation. Stoicism teaches that peace is not found in pleasing everyone around you. Peace is found in mastering yourself, in remaining steady when emotions rise, and in understanding that calmness carries more power than performance ever will. The moment a person stops treating discomfort like danger, something begins to change internally. Most people spend years believing they are emotionally intelligent when, in reality, they are merely emotionally reactive in socially acceptable ways. They enter conversations already adjusting themselves, scanning the room for resistance, and shifting their tone depending on who is listening. Gradually, their thoughts stop coming from clarity and start coming from anticipation. After enough repetition, this defensive behavior no longer feels exhausting because it becomes completely automatic. That is the danger of conditioning. Discomfort is not always a signal to retreat. Sometimes it is simply exposure to truth without distraction. When silence enters a conversation, most people rush to fill it because silence forces awareness and removes performance. They laugh too quickly after making a serious point or repeat explanations even after being understood. They are speaking to escape tension. The more someone fears tension, the easier they become to control emotionally. A person who cannot tolerate emotional friction will eventually surrender principles just to restore temporary comfort. Genuine composure requires the ability to remain present without rushing to emotionally protect yourself from every uncomfortable moment. Calm individuals understand that not every silence requires rescue, not every disagreement requires immediate resolution, and not every raised eyebrow deserves an explanation. There is quiet strength in allowing moments to breathe without scrambling to control perception. When someone speaks carefully, pauses naturally, and remains steady under subtle pressure, the emotional atmosphere changes immediately. Words carry more weight, and presence becomes noticeable without effort. This happens because composure communicates absolute internal order. One of the quietest ways people lose themselves is through the inability to set limits without guilt. They keep giving attention long after respect disappears, confusing endless availability with kindness and unlimited tolerance with maturity. But human nature rarely values what appears constantly available. Unrestricted access removes consequence, and over time, resentment quietly builds underneath forced politeness. Real discipline is not endless self-sacrifice. It is knowing when compassion becomes self-abandonment. Boundaries are not emotional walls, they are filters that determine where attention flows and where it stops. Fear-based kindness usually avoids boundaries because it depends heavily on maintaining approval. Strength-based kindness remains compassionate without becoming self-destructive. Sometimes the healthiest decision is quiet distance rather than endless emotional negotiation. Emotionally disciplined people often adjust access quietly, no performance, no hostility, just awareness guiding behavior more carefully. This subtle restraint removes the need to constantly over-explain. Beneath excessive explanation sits the fear of being judged incorrectly or losing approval. When that fear takes control, speech stops becoming intentional and starts becoming defensive. A simple statement turns into a long explanation because the mind wants immediate emotional relief from unresolved tension. Real steadiness appears when a person no longer depends on perfect perception to remain emotionally settled within themselves. A concise, calm answer feels stronger than a long, emotional defense because restraint communicates inner confidence. Epictetus expressed this simply: we have 2 ears and 1 mouth so that we can listen twice as much as we speak. Once awareness sharpens, conversations stop feeling random. Patterns become visible everywhere. You begin noticing the way someone responds to silence, reacts when interrupted, or changes their tone around authority. Underneath every interaction, emotional positioning is constantly shifting. The person who constantly seeks reassurance gives away emotional leverage first. They explain too much, adjust too quickly, and become psychologically dependent on the outcome of the conversation. Meanwhile, the calmer individual remains centered regardless of how the interaction unfolds. People trust composure because it suggests internal stability. Loud dominance attracts attention temporarily, but steady presence shapes long-term perception more effectively. When someone expects an argument and receives controlled silence instead, uncertainty enters the interaction, forcing others to think more carefully. Urgency rarely improves clarity, quick reactions often expose insecurity. This consistent discipline builds your reputation across moments that feel insignificant. Every reaction teaches people what to expect from you. Most individuals think reputation is shaped through major achievements, but perception forms through repetition, through ordinary interactions and daily emotional habits. The Stoics believed character becomes most visible under pressure because pressure removes performance. Anyone can appear calm when circumstances are comfortable, but tension exposes true structural patterns. If disrespect is tolerated consistently, people assume your access has no limits. Real influence grows when external behavior aligns naturally with internal discipline. The individual is not pretending to be grounded, they have trained themselves to remain centered repeatedly. This consistency removes uncertainty, creating a subtle form of influence that feels effortless from the outside. As emotional discipline strengthens, the need to constantly prove yourself disappears. You no longer try to force respect through explanation, validation seeking, or emotional intensity. Calm standards create an invisible structure around you, and others begin recognizing what behavior receives access and what behavior creates distance. No dramatic confrontation is necessary because the pattern itself is clear. When people realize they cannot easily provoke you into losing control, they begin interacting with greater awareness around you. You stop trying to rescue every conversation or chase understanding from people unwilling to offer it sincerely. Instead of reacting impulsively to every emotional signal, you remain centered within your own mind. In the end, the strongest people are not the loudest, the coldest, or the most feared. They are the ones who remain steady when emotions try to pull them away from themselves. They are the ones who no longer need constant approval to feel secure, the ones who can sit in silence, hold their ground calmly, and move through life without abandoning their principles just to be accepted. That kind of strength is quiet, but it changes everything. If this message stayed with you, take a moment and watch one of the videos on your screen right now. Keep building the mindset that protects your peace, sharpens your discipline, and strengthens your presence. If you found this video valuable, please be sure to like it, share it with your friends, and do not forget to subscribe to True Stoic Journal so that life-changing insights like these continue to reach you. Until next time, protect your peace and remain centered.